Hey everyone, my name is Randy Kassar and I have Michael Mace here from Rubicon Consulting. And today we want to talk about how to market your app on the app stores that you're selling your applications on. So Michael, welcome.
Yeah, very nice to be here, thanks.
So let's talk about some of the tips that developers and their biz dev marketing co-parts should really think about when putting their apps on these stores.
Well, you know, it's always nice if you've got several $1 million to spend on a big marketing budget, then that's great. You can do traditional advertising, a little TV. Well, you may need more than a couple million for that. But anyway, most app developers aren't in that situation. Usually it's a shoestring. And in fact, a lot of the folks I talk to these days, they are just developers and they really have almost no or no money at all for outbound advertising. So really what they're depending on is what sort of traffic can they generate on the stores? And that's turning out to be a black art. You know, you have to look very, very carefully at how the store is structured, and you have to run a bunch of experiments. So the first kind of pointer is be willing to run some experiments and try out different things
to
see what works.
Try and see what works best.
You got to try something. Yep, you got to try for about a week, see how it goes. Be willing to change it, which means you need to be watching very carefully. You know how the traffic is working and how many people are getting your stuff and that sort of thing. A lot of developers will make the mistake of changing several things at the same time, and I don't recommend that because then you can't tell which one is actually working. So one thing at a time, try this, let it go for a little while, see how it's going, then try another thing. So that's the first thing, is be willing to experiment, but make sure they're carefully controlled experiments that you design the right way so that you can keep it going up. Second thing is, look at the structure of the site and think about the process by which the process by which the customer is coming to you in deciding to get your application. And think of it kind of as if it was people standing in line for a movie, and you're always losing people out of the line, right? Maybe they're vaguely interested at the start and they get in the line, but no, this isn't moving fast enough, they're going to drift off. At every point in time, you're going to be shedding customers. And what you want to do is reduce that process by which you're shedding those people.
So you're never going to get 100%, but you want to try and get as close to that as possible.
Yep. And so how do you suck them in as quickly as possible? How do you keep them standing in line? How do you get them into the lobby as quickly as possible and get their butts in a seat so they'll buy some popcorn? Right? So in a lot of the stores, the way it'll work is, first of all, there's some sort of search that they're doing. So the user is doing some sort of search that's going to get you to a list, and you want to be sure that you're high on that particular list. So understanding what are the standard keywords that your users are likely to use for a search.
Kind of put yourself in their mindset.
Yep.
Just like general SEO techniques that they use on websites.
And actually, it's a really good point. A lot of this comes from website disciplines, especially people who are doing free software on the web, because their whole challenge is the user's going to download the software first, and then later I'm going to convince them to pay for it. So great, somebody came to CNET. I've got to get them to look it up on CNET or wherever else, and then go download it. And then my work really begins because then I'm going to convince them to buy. You're doing the same sort of thing in the software store. So the first thing is, what terms is the user going to search against? And it's not what you want them to search against, it's which terms are they going to be doing. Second thing is, what do you do to get ranked high there? And this is tricky because different stores operate in different ways. So, for instance, one of the things you could say to yourself is, well, I've got a basic software engine here that can work in 5 different vertical markets. Do I do one software product and then say, this is great for market A, B, C, D, E? Or do I do 5 different versions of the product, each under a different name, that are aimed at those different verticals, so that by golly, when somebody comes and searches on that particular vertical, I'm going to be ranked higher because there are fewer apps. But here's the trick. Some of the stores will rank you by just relevance. How relevant are you to that particular topic? Some of the stores will rank you by what is your total number of downloads. And so in that case, if it's ranking you by total downloads, you don't want to do several different versions of the app.
Right.
You want to do one version, make sure your description is really inclusive, so hopefully you get included in that search, and then you pop up because of the total number of users. So unless you've either done some experiments to find out how the algorithm works, or hopefully the vendor has told you how it works, or because some of them are secretive, you talk to other developers and find out how that works. But you need to know how that's going to operate, because that'll affect how you're packaging the app.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of discussions on the MoDev community and other Android user groups where they're sharing experiences on the Android market, in other stores. So I think that's definitely a key thing to do, is to talk.
Hang out with the other developers and find out what's working. Yep. So then the next thing is, usually when those results come up, and it varies again by stores, so I'm not trying to pick on a particular community, but usually what you'll get is a list of different apps, and each app will be listed maybe with a little icon next to it sometimes, and you'll have usually title of app, and you'll have name of company. And the user is not going to learn anything more about the apps unless they tap or click on that listing. And then they'll get to your whole nice listing where you've got several paragraphs to describe it. You can put all this wonderful stuff. But unless they tap on that, unless they go experience that, you're never going to get them to see that thing. So I've seen developers spend an enormous amount of time on that few paragraphs of text to try to make that perfect. How do I make this so enticing that they're really going to want to download the app? But understand, yeah, most people never see it. You know, they never get to that point in the first place. So how do you entice them to click? And so one of the things developers need to think about is how can you leverage the product name and the company name and the icon, anything that you're allowed to sell, to all give the right message. So for instance, a lot of developers will do a generic looking icon that they think is going to look really nice on the device after the app is installed. Forget about that, you know, because that's once they've installed it, they know where the app is, you know, and they know that they've put it there. You want an icon that helps to communicate what your application does, you know. So if you're doing, I don't know, a financial calculator, then it's a really good idea to put maybe a big $sign as your icon or something like that. You know, what's gonna catch the eye of the person as they're scanning that list.
Maybe do some searches beforehand before you put it on the store.
Yep.
See what the other results are.
See what the others are like. Say what's going to stand out. There are certain colors that people respond to better. You know, if you look at color preferences, people respond to blue a lot better than they do to, for instance, yellows and things like that. Look at what are the popular cars out there, right? How many yellow cars do you see? Now, yellow, because it really stands out, may be appropriate for some things. You know, like maybe a really golden colored $sign may stand out really nicely. But understand the message that you're sending with little things like color schemes. Next thing is product name and company name, because very often those two things are both displayed. And what you'll very often see with developer is the developer will come up with an okay name for the app, you know, financial calculator or Joe's financial calculator or something like that. But then you look at the company name, it'll be Joe's software. And so, okay, have you given me any new information from the company name? You know, so if instead the company name was World's Best Financial Calculators Incorporated, and then the product name was Super Duper Financial Calculator, you know, or something like that, where both of those things are communicating something really valuable to the user, they're just more likely to tap through and check it out because you've said more about your application. So sometimes people will fall in love with some cute company name they've come up with, and my recommendation is don't do that. You know, you fall in love with somebody that you're going to marry, but for a company name, you do something that's going to help you sell.
Yeah.
And now there are tricks to it, because then on the other hand, if you make the company name too specific and you do 5 different apps that are on different topics, the rankings in the store may reward the company that gets the most aggregate downloads, and then you've got to think about what's a good name that runs across all of those things. But nevertheless, you want to think in a really coordinated way about how does the icon, how does the company name, how does the product name, how does all that stuff work together to drive somebody into doing that magical little moment of tapping in order to learn more information, because that's when you can really start to sell to them.
Yeah, that's true. And I think those are great tips that every developer should take a look at. So we talked about the design of the app, the brand of the name of the company, as well as the search relevancy. And those are great things that developers should definitely think about. So if you guys have any more questions for Michael, definitely comment on this video and on this blog post, and we'd love to start a discussion with you. Thanks again, Michael, for coming.
Sure thing.
And for those tips.
It's great.
And see you guys soon at another ModeDev event. Make sure to sign up for the ModeDev Summit on October 6th in San Diego at developer.motorola.com. Thanks again.